Mr. Speaker, to the growing list of NDP mismanagement and abandoned accountabilities, we can add environmental, social, and educational issues. First, this NDP government abandoned its own legislated requirement to address climate change and to meet targets. Manitoba has come nowhere near the targets. Another broken NDP commitment. With the broken promise and rising greenhouse gases, why in 15 years has this government not produced an adequate plan to adapt to the extreme temperatures in Manitoba's future, but instead in its most recent green plan just said at some point in the future they'll do something? I ask the Premier, when will he finally have a completed adaptation plan and implement it for adapting to climate change?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Every single day, we are putting measures in place, and Manitobans are working on things that adapt Manitoba to climate change and to be one of the greenest provinces in Canada. A couple of examples, Mr. Speaker. Our Power Smart programs recently announced will reduce consumption 157,000 kilowatt hours, million kilowatt hours, Mr. Speaker, will be reduced. Manitobans will save money. They will produce less greenhouse gas emissions. They will keep their cost of living affordable, Mr. Speaker. Another example of climate change adaptation, we're building flood protection for Lake Manitoba, Lake St. Martin, the Assiniboine River Valley, with a program for individual homeowners and cottage owners to protect their properties, Mr. Speaker. All of these things allow us to adapt to the climate, Mr. Speaker. We're building infrastructure. We're building roads at higher levels. We're building them in a sturdier fashion. We're recycling more materials in those roads, so we reduce the footprint on the cost of doing those roads, Mr. Speaker. That's climate change adaptation, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, we have, by UNESCO considers, Manitoba to have the best environmental education program in the world.
Order, please. The Honourable First Minister's time has elapsed.
Mr. Speaker, too many of the Premier's plans are fitful and temporary, like the subsidy for hybrid electric cars that he put on and then abandoned in 2010. Mr. Speaker, the government's laissez-faire approach is not just toward the environment. On social issues, for example, delivering for this and the next generation, the government is also failing. The number of children in the care of CFS continues to rise, 10 times more than most jurisdictions. The number of people with diabetes has doubled. There's been no decrease in the incidence of FASD. I ask the Premier, when will we get real solutions from this NDP problems for all the problems that they have created and contributed to through their mismanagement?
Mr. Speaker, Manitoba's investments in early childhood development are the best in Canada. Manitoba's investment in the daycare system there's only one other province that comes close to it, the province of Quebec. Our initiatives to reduce class size in schools from K-3 to around 20 children on average is one of the best initiatives in Canada. Our initiatives on the skills agenda in our junior high schools and high schools considered among the best in Canada, Mr. Speaker. On the child welfare system, we have put a very significant program in place to help families at the community level, to support and strengthen families in those neighborhoods. And Mr. Speaker, when it comes to fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, I just signed an agreement in France with one of their major departments where they have a very diverse population, along with the government of Israel and the government of Manitoba, to do some of the most cutting-edge fetal alcohol spectrum disorder research in the world, housed here right in Manitoba and providing good results for people around the world, Mr. Speaker. That research is being done here in Manitoba, Mr. Speaker.
Bits and pieces, Mr. Speaker, but not solving problems. That's the issue. Now, on education, the Program for International Student Assessment reported that Manitoba students fare among the worst in Canada on problem solving. Accountability involves seeing problems and then solving the problems. This problem-solving deficit of the NDP government has now been extended by the government to our children. And so far, the Premier's not doing so well either. He's not put forward a solution to the problem of poor scores of Manitoba students on these international tests in problem solving. And the example of his NDP government is poor. Can the Premier tell this legislature today what solutions he will be implementing to solve this problem-solving problem.
So it's like the member missed the throne speech, missed the budget, and missed every announcement that's been made through the Department of Education and Advanced Learning, Mr. Speaker. The math curriculum has been revised and will continue to be revised with a focus on fundamental skills, but not at the expense of the ability to solve larger problems and understand concepts. We are going to get the right mix there in consultation with our math professors and math instructors throughout the province of Manitoba. The curriculum for language skills has been updated and improved in Manitoba, Mr. Speaker. The science curriculum, just this morning, the minister announced a number of new labs for science labs in Manitoba, Mr. Speaker. An announcement which will allow our schools to have the best state-of-the-art labs anywhere in the country, Mr. Speaker. The member's missing the point, he's missing what's going on, and he's voted against every single one of those initiatives. If he wants to solve problems, he should stop voting for the Tories and vote for our budget, Mr. Speaker.